Holy he actually did it. Donald Trump actually won the election. I'm amped. In this video, we'll talk about the boogeyman versus the savior complex that he holds on both sides and why both sides are wrong, the illusion of government coming to save you, the biggest things plaguing American politics right now, the culture war and how the pendulum is swinging back, why the leftist meltdown was completely overrated for me, and how a segment of the women almost destroyed an entire country. Let's get into it. So first and foremost, I used to be really scared of supporting him, but recently it's like a combination of, you know, like when he got shot in the summer, that was a wake-up call for me. So I am Canadian, so kind of everything I say doesn't really matter in this. Even if I was in the US, it doesn't really matter. I'm just some dude talking about things who's trying to be reasonable, trying to seek the truth. But when that first attempted assassination happened, I was like, damn, okay, if this guy's literally taking bullets for us, the least I can do is publicly support him, even if I'm not necessarily in the country. But I identify as a patriot. I identify as American. So unless you're a bigot on the left, you need to respect that. That was a big one for me. So after that, I posted publicly on X about why like this guy is the biggest threat to the establishment. But that was a turning point for me. But after that, I still did have some resistance, you know, like an event that happens doesn't necessarily, you know, take out all your resistance or clear all your blockages. But I mean, in the past week kind of thing, like, so I'm recording this on the 8th of November right now. Obviously the election was on the 5th. But I did actually a lot of releasing on the 5th of resistance to publicly supporting him because I did want to say something, but I was still like scared. I was still resistant, you know, like you get casted all these labels and everything like that. The mind, being as tribalistic as it is, can sometimes perceive those things as real threats, even though they're completely just words. But if you have the identity of something, or if the identity of something is too strong, you can take things personally and perceive them as real and threats to your life, even though they are not at all. But that's how the ego really sabotages you, convincing you that you're unsafe, that you're outside of control. And then if it can do that, you'll just avoid it altogether if it's bad enough. And for me, it was pretty fucking bad. And that's just not limited to Trump stuff. It was other stuff as well. But I'm working a lot on the root cause. So that's what kind of happens with that. So that was a big thing. Then I just dissolved so much of my fears and insecurities around supporting him actually on election day, and then got to the place where I could pretty comfortably express my real-time thoughts on the election, including supporting Trump as the best person for the job. This man is not perfect, but he is the closest chance we have at this given time to being a truly anti-establishment person. Now, I am honestly really scared that he is going to you know, just bring in all the deep state and establishment types that he, you know, like what he did last time was just surround himself with swamp creatures. And then obviously he's not going to drain the swamp if that's the case. And that's a lot of people say, like, okay, if he was actually a truly anti-establishment candidate, he would have drained the swamp on term 1. But you can only do that if you have the right connections in place. And I think he's better positioned to do it now because he's had all these experiences with all of these swampy people who are just, you know, it doesn't matter if they're on the right, if they're aligned with the establishment, they are not on Trump's side. So I don't even see it as left and right anymore. It's literally anti-establishment versus establishment in my mind. I don't give a shit if you're on the left. Are you bootlicking big government and the establishment and all these people that are in the uniparty, or are you not? It's just that simple for me. On the left, you got different things, but on the right, the version of this is like the fucking warmongers or the neocons, as they're called. You know, the people just bowing down to Israel. And that's actually my biggest fear with Trump with this election. We'll probably talk about that in a little bit. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to agree with everything Trump does. Like, I have zero control over his actions, but he's in the best position to make America way better. You know, stop the bleeding. Even if it's just like a temporary pause from all of the bullshit that happened over the last 4 years with Biden and Kamala. What a fucking disaster. Crime through the roof, border just non-existent, welcoming people in, incentivizing them to come. All of the crimes that were committed by illegal immigrants, or, you know, just straight up apartment buildings being overtaken by certain gangs from certain countries. It's like, bro, what are we doing here? the inflation, the fucking COVID insanity, the censorship, the moving closer to communism, like not to mention all the wars, the public weakness, it's just straight up incompetency. I don't even think those people were running the country. It's just like all of these things are utter garbage, and it honestly blows my mind that she got as many, but I think it was 60, I'll double check this. As I record this, it is 69 million. Nice. And Trump is just under 73.5. However, the final count as of posting was 74 million for Kamala and 76 million for Trump. Great to see that Arizona could finally count their votes. But it just blows me away that 69 million would think, yes, this is a good idea to vote for 4 more years of this. Honestly, just voting for America's destruction. Fucking insanity. Politically suicidal as far as I'm concerned. So I'm not going to align with Trump perfectly on everything. I have my gripes with him. The biggest one probably bowing down to Israel, bending the knee to Israel. As of right now, I cannot stand Israel. Completely just anti-human what they're doing right now. It's not even a fair fucking fight, and US is just funding the whole thing. Many countries are funding the whole thing, including Canada, my country as well. But just to be clear, I don't support either side in the war. They are both terrorists by the definition, but I think Israel is even worse. If there's anything I do support in this ugly ass complicated war, it would be the innocent citizens on both sides. They are a very destructive country, and I cannot stand the allegiance to other countries over the one you're supposed to be serving. And also the bureaucrats that surround those politicians that get those politicians to do things for the country that those bureaucrats are allegiant to, which ends up putting that country second, third, etc., and sometimes even last. So I'm extremely America first in that regard. If you're going to serve your country through politics, I think you should have to get rid of your dual citizenship, because if you're allegiant to any other country, you've completely lost the plot. There's going to be a mismatch of priorities, and you're supposed to put the American people first. But that's not what many politicians do. They just put America citizens last, and it's true with other countries as well. Definitely true with Canada. What the fuck is going on here? It's just an absolute joke, but I don't even know what the fucking future holds with this country. I've really done a nice weave here, but...
See? The weave.
We do a little trolling. It's called We Do a Little Trolling.
If you really do align with this man, I think it is your obligation to publicly support him for taking arrows that he is. Whether that's Trump or someone else as well. Like, I remember throughout COVID, a lot of people were like, well, I can't speak up because of blah, blah, blah. Well, you can... And you probably should, because, the people that are taking the arrows for you, that is literally the least you could do is publicly support things. But people are like scared, they're leveraged, they're compromised, and then it stops them. These like golden handcuffs or something worse can stop them from publicly repping the things that they'd rep behind closed doors. But I mean, like now more than ever, I think it's like completely different. It was way more scary back in the day to say something like this, or to like if you supported Donald Trump near that 2020 election, you were still like the bad guy. But like the culture has shifted so much that it kind of doesn't matter anymore. And a lot of people are just waking up to the fact that like the bad guy, quote unquote, is the Democratic Party. They are so compromised, it is stupid. And I say that as someone who probably would have been a Democrat 20 years ago. Granted, I was 8, so I wasn't into politics back then. The way my values are now is pretty aligned with the way the Democratic Party used to be before it just completely lost its way and got sucked into this communist Marxist agenda. At least that's the way I see it. Maybe you see it differently, but it is questionable to say the least. So as for someone who holds the best shot of going against the establishment, it is definitely Trump. Now, there is a possibility he does actually bend the knee to the establishment, and I pray to God that does not happen. I pray that he has the courage and the conviction to go against the type of people that do not have this country's best interest in heart. But it does scare me when I see him selecting people of his cabinet and they're like warmongers or deep state people, or people from last time. Like, the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And if he's just going to surround himself with the exact same people that he did last time, he's not going to, quote unquote, make America great again, because those people do not give a shit about making America great again. They care about making like Israel great again, or fucking Ukraine, or what have you. It is It is anti-American. So if he's actually serious about doing the things he promised within his campaign, he needs to get the fuck away from all those people that I'm seeing at least pop up right now as potentials. Now, the people he did promise in his cabinet ahead of time, that has to be the most interesting thing I have ever seen in my life. So you've got like JD Vance, who I like. I wasn't really sure on him at first, but at least so far what I've seen from him over the past couple of years, solid. Vivek. This is my favorite person within politics by a country fucking mile. He is the best. He is the most unifying figure I've seen within politics, but he's also like extremely libertarian, and I really fuck with libertarianism. I'm not any real thing. Like, I'm not a libertarian, I'm not conservative, but I do take values from all, and I probably, if I'm going to line up on a percentage scale of anything, the most, definitely libertarianism and anti-establishmentism, if that is even a thing. But Vivek, absolute G, all-time great speaker, but also the way he says things is the most important for me. Extremely unifying. I would absolutely love to see Vivek and Andy Frisella team up in 2028 and run. Oh my, that is literally my anti-corruption dream of like properly draining the swamp. That would be absolutely incredible for me. Tulsi Gabbard, absolute G as well. RFK Jr., all-time great. I'm so excited for what he's going to introduce within Make America Healthy Again. This could be absolutely life-changing for a lot of people, so I'm very excited about that. Also, so funny to see certain people react to the RFK thing. Like, I saw some dude yesterday, he's like all scared that RFK is going to be implementing and banning certain things, and it's like, you are literally cheering for your own demise. Like, you want to be unhealthy, you want to have disease, you want to have all of this bad shit and have poor health. Like, can you lick the establishment boot anymore? It is crazy to me. These people are absolutely fucking insane. But thankfully that's not so common. Like, people typically on the left and right, at least not the progressive left, because they're just retarded, but the common sense liberals, like, they did like RFK a lot, because he is a G. And of course, last but not least, Elon Musk, quite literally the dude who saved free speech and was very, very responsible for why Trump got elected. Thank God for X, man. That platform is a true seeker's dream. I'm very grateful to Elon for giving us the opportunity to actually speak without censorship. It is so important. And people say, like, it's dangerous. You're dangerous. That's a communistic ideal where you need to shut down speech. You don't even know what you're saying at that point. You are compromised by an ideology that you're not even aware of. The rest of us who haven't lost our way know that even if what's being said is really, really ugly, you have to let it be said. That is truly at the foundation of real democracy. There's a reason why it's the First Amendment and not the second, third, or fourth. So of the people we know within the cabinet right now, for me, as someone who's extremely against the corruption, this has the potential to be the greatest anti-establishment cabinet in modern history. And I'm so excited for it. All of the different people have different things they're bringing to the table. All of them aligning. Oh my God. It's exactly what I wanted. I've been cheering on for like the past year, the idea of RFK, Vivek, and Trump all working together, even when it didn't actually make sense back then. So to see them now all come together with some other people as well, especially like Elon Musk, oh my fuck. It's so good, bro. It is so good. So I understand that not everyone's going to love Trump, but I don't know. People make exceptions for imperfect people all the time outside of politics. He was so loved up until he got into politics, and originally he was actually going to go Democrat, but they didn't let him in. So he ended up going Republican and then going against that same machine, which to me tells me he was actually a true independent. Like, he used to vote Democrat kind of thing. And man, people just like paint him out so weirdly. Like, they try to pretend he's this crazy extremist. I wish he was more extreme on a lot of things, but he's way more moderate than people give him credit for. For whatever reason, within politics, it's like all these people get a pass on all their corruption and all their imperfections, but as soon as Trump exists, it's like people just go and just stop seeing clearly at all. So it's like, what happened there? And if that is the case, has your mind been hijacked by people who don't have your best interest in mind and are just trying to run you a script that is playing out in your mind over and over again, instead of actually just sitting there and just being honest and asking, is this actually the bad guy that we've been taught that he is? And so far, I would say no. I would say he is not that bad guy. Watching him interact with people, I think, is a good testament to his character. You could say, well, he's acting. Well, you can only act that for so long. And And it does actually seem genuine the way he is interacting with people. I could be wrong about this, don't know everything, but it just seems like when he is with people, he does care. It's honestly, it kind of reminds me of myself. Like when I'm out in everyday life, I am quite warm and loving with people, even though like I can be ruthless at times in situations that are important for that, whether it's like me calling out people on their bullshit or just, you know, it's what needs to be done in that moment. But people try to conflate this, how he is towards the people that hate you. And they're like, oh yeah, we need civility, we need decency. No, you don't. These people are absolute scum who are pushing this crazy fucking shit that is against you, by the way, whether you realize it or not. And he should not be treating those politicians with respect. They are literally creatures in a fucking swamp. These are not everyday people that have your best interest in mind. So to all the corrupt establishment types, the career politicians, the ones that profit off your demise, why in the fucking world would you want him to be respectful to those people? Pretend you're back in like middle school, for example. If you have a bully that is completely harassing you over and over and over again, then a new kid comes in from a different school and he takes a liking to you and he sees this and he's like, this isn't right. And he likes you enough to back you up. So he starts bullying the person who's bullying you. Now you, as the person being bullied, who are you mad at? The person bullying you or the person that is taking a liking to you and trying to protect you? That's literally exactly what Trump is to the establishment. He bullies the people that deserve to be bullied. Even as someone who like really appreciates love, respect, all these different things, I am so down with it. Are you riding this narrative so much in your mind that those people are the good people and Trump is the bad guy for treating these people with disrespect? So literally they've done all the types of assassinations you could. First, character assassination, then lawfare, then actual attempted assassinations. And you still think the establishment itself is on your side? Bro, I say this with the most respect possible. Please drop the illusion and just come back to earth. Like, Trump is not a perfect guy. No one fucking said he was. But if he's going to go at the people who hate you, he is not the bad guy you've been taught he is. He's clearly enough of a threat to their agenda, whether, you know, whatever you think the agenda is. I think it's global communism. You might think it's different, but whatever that agenda is, and at least, if nothing else, we could probably agree that the agenda is anti-American because all the policies they try to put forth are very anti-American in their core. But he is clearly enough of a threat to them to be able to want to take him out in those types of ways. And it's just honestly a gift that we still have him because he could very easily not have been here. So to all the people who say he's not anti-establishment, I don't think he's perfectly anti-establishment, but I mean, we haven't really gotten a chance to see him without all these blocks in place like last time. So let's see what happens within this next term, and he can prove himself whether he is anti-establishment or not. But for me, it's the fact that all of the establishment decided to go against him within the endorsements. You know, like you have all the fucking rhinos in the right, all of the Clintons, the Obamas, the Bushes, the Cheneys, all of the establishment families and cabal just decided to go completely against him. That should tell you something in your mind of if he's with them or against them kind of thing. And I mean, he's very clearly an outsider. That's actually why I do like him a lot, is because politicians who have their own money first, I think, are better than people who don't. Because, well, first of all, just because you'll be able to run a business so much better, which a country is more like a business than not. That first and foremost, like that was my logic back in the day as well with 2016 when I wasn't political whatsoever. I was just, my basic 2 points within that election were, number one, who's more likely to run the country better, a politician or a businessman? And a businessman always just made sense purely from the ability from operation standpoint, not even from a less influence and leverage kind of thing. I wasn't even thinking about that back then. But the second thing was, thank God Hillary didn't win, because that chick is fucking evil. And I didn't even need to be in politics to realize that. You could just sense it. It is bad. She's probably the most evil woman on the entire planet. So for me, it was just hilarious to see, you know, all of the Democrats, which there's like 3 people I can think of right now that aren't fully compromised by the establishment. That just goes to tell you what has happened to the Democratic Party. What a fucking joke it's become. And Republican is not good either. Like, there's a lot of people in the establishment on the right, who I'm not a fan of either. I'm just not for the establishment. I've said this probably too many times so far. It's a broken record, but it's really, really important to me. And then like all of the warmongers, the neocons, and then not to mention all of the Epstein list people and potential Diddy list people as well. All the Hollywood entertainment, all those people just literally being leveraged into, even if they don't actually support it. But that will force them for the rest of their days to follow the set party line and go along with whatever the current thing is that they need to support. And in this case, it's apparently in 2024, it's still Orange Man bad. There's still part of me that's like, damn, this is, I can't believe this actually happened. There was part of me that was so scared this was going to be stolen because of all the nonsense in 2020. It is my belief that the 2020 election was stolen. It's not that every vote was stolen. The elections are still a real thing. It's not what I'm saying. But after watching 2000 Mules, bro, if you can admit after watching that and seeing all the ballot box harvesting and the targeting of key swing states, you're not being honest. The reality is they really tried to peddle this nonsensical argument about if you challenge elections, you are somehow like a domestic terrorist or you're a threat to democracy, when in reality, it's completely the opposite. So back in the day, this is like a common thing. It's, Hillary Clinton challenged the 2016 election. She has a right to. And there's been other people in the past that have done that as well. What is the problem with that? So if you truly care about democracy, an election happens and you genuinely think that there is something that was tampered with, that there was finesse, and it cost you the election, it would be anti-democracy to not challenge it, to go along with it. Because if a coup was staged, if you installed a president instead of them properly being elected, then that's not democracy anymore. So this never made any sense to me, because fundamental to democracy is, they peddled this thing like safe and secure elections. What was safe and secure about 2020's election? There was so much finesse. And I didn't believe it at first when I first heard like, oh, the election was stolen. And, I don't think J6 was the answer. Like, why would you... It just screams feds, bro. But the people who were there also completely at fault for falling for that and entering. Like, they shouldn't have. They should have been smart enough to spot the false flag. And they're usually pretty good about that stuff. But they missed the mark on that, probably because they were too emotional. And while I'm there, by the way, it was not an actual insurrection. If it was a real insurrection, they would have been charged with insurrection in the U.S. Criminal Code. Why am I Canadian and I know this more than people? It's insane, bro. So all that said, I think a protest was necessary. They just took the wrong path with it. But it was a very legitimate protest because, I don't think that Joe Biden actually won. I think Trump won that. So congratulations to Donald Trump on winning 3 times for the first time in U.S. history. Guy's breaking records out here. And honestly, everyone involved in that finesse should go to prison for sure, because those 4 years with Biden and Harris were absolutely disastrous for the country. Almost everything they did throughout their regime was not for the people, but against the people. And America is so much worse off because of it. Now, say everything I just said is true. I think it is. But say everything is true. How is that a threat to democracy when a regime has been installed instead of elected? I don't understand that. So where I'm consistent around this, if Kamala challenges it and she's found to actually be in power correctly with actual real election, not this ballot box harvesting. I think they're even maybe trying to do this right now with some of the House stuff from what I was seeing. But I haven't dug too deep into it, so I can't formally comment, just seeing a potential there. But if there is actual finesse going on in the Republican Party as well, get rid of it. I pray that Republicans and Trump really, really lock down elections and make them really, really, really safe and get rid of any room for error. Because between free speech and voting, that is the bedrock of democracy. And I know the U.S. is not a democracy, it's a constitutional republic. Again, why do so many apparent Americans not know this? I'm not sure. But at the same time, I'm just the principle being democracy. So yeah, I'm very consistent with this. If there was corruption within the last election, overturn the election. Like the original one should have been overturned as well in 2020. It's a shame they didn't figure that one out, but it's in the past. It is what it is. I think Americans learned how messed up the current Democratic Party is, so I guess it needed to happen that way. So the funny thing about this election is like I wasn't sure if Trump would win entering it. I had my fears, but it was mostly all around election integrity. I just didn't know if it was set up enough for Donald Trump to win. I wasn't sure if they'd be able to rig it, but too big to rig turned out to be absolute genius. Where was that in 2020, bro? For me, I think it's absolutely hilarious about all of the things they tried to pull, like obviously from the media getting fully behind Kamala, her going from a 35% to a 45% approval rating because of the machine. That's how powerful the media machine is, the propaganda machine. She went from the most incompetent VP of all time to America's savior overnight, which all happened after they completely installed her, skipped the democratic process, which apparently these are the guys who are like for democracy the most, right? Fair and honest elections, except we can just do whatever the fuck we want because we are the establishment Democrats. But I think it's so funny that they still tried to cheat in all these different ways. Looking at how J.D. Vance talked about how much the Republican campaigns emails are sent to spam versus Democrats. That was insane to hear. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was like night and day differences. Google, ChatGPT, Facebook AI would literally say the Trump assassination attempt did not happen. That is absurd. That is also a real testament to the bias of AI from all these progressives who built it, in California kind of thing. So whatever they build is how AI is going to think. How is this not a massive problem? AI, man. I wish we never took this genie out of the bottle because it's not going back in and I don't think it's good for humanity. So we shall see. And I also saw finesse happening in Pennsylvania, I believe it was. And it was a very helpless feeling just looking at that during election night at like 1:30 a.m. or whatever, and just thinking, oh man, they're doing it again. They're going to lose. But things ended up working out okay, thank God. But I think it's absolutely hilarious that they still tried to finesse certain things and still lost. Oh my God. Think about all of the celebrities, the celebrity endorsements, the whether it's Epstein, Diddy, or they just actually believe it. But I think a lot of them will be on the first two lists. But think about how many celebrities, musicians, all of these people that were involved in endorsing Kamala, and she still lost. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. I just love that the average American, the average person is so done with Hollywood and all of these celebrities telling them how to think and if they're a good or a bad person based on how they view things politically. It's fucking amazing. All these people are completely out of touch. It doesn't matter who wins for them because they're sad, they're good. Because like back in the day that had a poll. Back in 2020, it was like if someone endorsed Biden back then, that was like pretty significant. But now it doesn't have that same pull, and I thank God for that people are waking up and also realizing how strange Hollywood is, man. Like celebrities, I just don't give a shit about. I used to really appreciate Hollywood, especially because like I'm in creative space. I love movies. Movies are phenomenal. Part of my mind, I used to like be obsessed with making Hollywood type films kind of thing, except independently. Also like wondered some days, would it have been good to get involved in Hollywood? Thank God I did not, because that place is, man, it looks like an absolute tire fire. So thank God for that. So at this point, I'm still kind of in this state of like, holy, this actually happened. I say that with an asterisk because Trump is not going to be the savior. The cabinet will not save everything, but they will help a lot. And it's still up to the American people. It's still up to, even if you're not in the US like myself, it's still up to the people to take back the culture. Andy Frisella, he talks about personal excellence is the ultimate rebellion. And over the past few years, that's been a really good principle for me to come back to. So if I ever feel powerless in a political sense, just reminding myself that, these people are not our saviors. Even if it's like the perfect anti-establishment, axes all of the nonsense, all of the bloat, gets rid of all of the communist woke bullshit. they're still not your savior whatsoever. You need to save you. No government is going to save you. It is up to you. All they can do is just put conditions in place to make things easier, better, more effective. You can just lay a better foundation, a better soil, but it's still up to you to plant those seeds, water it, and fertilize it, and take the necessary actions to allow that reality to be created. That's not going to come from any politician, whether that's presidential, state. No politician or party will do that for you. So this is the thing that I think the right is missing the most, is this like savior complex around Trump. He's not the second coming of Jesus. He is not the savior of America. He will stop some bleeding, but he is not going to change everything. There's still going to be things that are not done that should be done, and potentially a lot of things that are left undone if he ends up being too leveraged by Israel, which is really sad for me, because I do want him to do the best he possibly can, but he just might be leveraged by the most powerful country on planet Earth. At the same time, Trump is also not your enemy. Like, I see a lot of leftists freaking out about Project 2025, and it's like, none of you have actually taken the time to research what his policies are and how they align. There will be certain things on the quote-unquote Project 2025 list that do get executed. That does not mean he's with Project 2025. If someone writes an objective list of, I am evil if I do these 10 things, and I do 2 of them just because they're good things to do, and they're in the best interest of my life and others' lives, does that mean I'm automatically subscribing to the other 8? That doesn't make sense. That's completely illogical. I'm trying to be a little bit honest here, because I kind of fall in the same kind of traps with looking at like communist manifestos kind of thing, but it's not like a few things. It's literally like the majority of things have been checked off in the communist manifesto in terms of how they plan to infiltrate America and the world at large at a global scale. So looking at Project 2025, it's super hardcore conservative. There's actually a decent amount of things I would agree with within Project 2025, but there's also a lot I wouldn't agree with, like going super fucking hard at abortion. Like, I'm not for that. Filling up the government unconstitutionally kind of thing. I'm also super not down for, merging Christianity and state, and it appears that they are pretty interested in that. Yeah, there's more than that, but it's not coming to me in this moment. But he's not this like crazy extremist that they paint him out to be. I posted about this in on X, and I actually got the most impressions I've ever got on a post. It was 600K last time I checked, so pretty cool. But man, people are just reeing out of control on this as if he's going to be like super against them. Like, I don't need to do this, but I was actually trying to help with the Project 2025 stuff and just educating people on how a lot of it is actually just like a boogeyman kind of thing. I don't benefit from that at all. It's merely just trying to chill people out, but they're so committed to the lie that they just want it to be real. So what can you do? You should see some of the replies on that, by the way. Like, people are just like, you tell them that this is not real kind of thing, and they're so filled with hate and anger. Some of the mentions I got, bro, were just insane. These people have absolutely lost the plot. They are not living in reality anymore. They are absolutely consumed with propaganda and men hating shit, conservative hating shit. It's just like, I don't blame them either. Like, the whole media machine is telling them to think a certain way, to feel a certain way, and then especially like they are not logically processing things. They are just parrots in many ways, just parroting what they've been told. So I don't expect them to know any better, and especially they're young, they're females, so they're more vulnerable to following things than men, who are more likely to logically, independently think through things, especially if they're higher in testosterone. Whereas like a lot of the low testosterone men are gravitating towards the more following things and complying with things. So it is what it is. I'm about to go on a bit of a rant about abortion, and I say all this as someone who's pro-choice at a legal level, but the dedication to abortion above all was deeply concerning. It is crazy to me how obsessed some of these women are, especially like the young women that are just like indoctrinated so deeply with feminism that they make abortion their entire thing. So it's like their number one issue. If your number one issue is abortion after everything that just happened over the last 4 years, be it inflation, be it corruption, be it censorship, wars, election fraud, you've completely lost the plot. It is such a low-hanging fruit. It's something that maybe impacts you like a couple times in your life. And during those couple times, could you not figure something out to get around it? And even before that, how can't you just use some preventative measures? Why do you need to use abortion as birth control? It's so strange. And it's this weird worship cult thing that I've seen where they all obsess over it like it's like some fucking virtuous thing. You guys are extremely strange to me. What I've been thinking about over the past few days is how hungry some women are to vote for emotion over logic, and the negative repercussions that has towards the country, towards their families, towards their offspring. They don't really know better. They're just programmed over and over again from school, from social media, from the news, from their liberal friends, and then it becomes like an out-liberaling race, which is like a literal race to the bottom. There are women who would rather have the ability to kill their child in the 9th month and have me and their brother and their father be drafted into some stupid World War III for Israel and have the economy go socialist, if not full-blown communist, have inflation go through the roof, suffer financially, have no borders, have unlimited illegal immigrants with zero vetting process to determine their character, their values, or why they're coming here. So as absurd as that is, they can't see it whatsoever. All they see is, abortion, I need abortion, and women are dying because of abortion. Bro, it's a shame that those, I think there's like 2 or 3 examples that I do know of. All we need in the States that do vote for pro-life is just better education, so those mishaps do not happen. Because from what I can see, it was just negligence and lack of awareness of what they were able to do without going to prison. I'm trying to be empathetic towards these people, but I mean, like, they don't give a shit about anyone except for themselves. It's really, really sad. They are stuck in an illusion, a trance where, men is their enemy. The patriarchy is their enemy. They have been so psyoped by feminism and leftism. These women will say, you're a bad person if you voted for this or you support this. And it doesn't matter because you won't be affected by a Trump presidency or his cabinet. Basically implying that there was no downside of anything to do with Kamala. And it's like, the most important thing is anti-war right now, as far as I'm concerned. They were really ramping up towards a World War III. Technically, they still could do this. Like, they still have 2 more months there. So it's like, this is not like a done thing, but they're not thinking clear enough to see that. They would rather have the possibility of me being drafted and all of the men around them and have their right to take out their offspring. It's absurd to me. There's no care for the other side at all. At least the pro-life people, like they actually have the best interest of the kid. All I know for sure is they are not the good people they have tried to convince everyone they are. They are filled with so much hate, so much anger, and I do my best to try to release any hate and anger that I might have in my heart that is unreleased, because it will blind you so much, and they are quite blind when it comes to the repercussions of things. It's so destructive to the country, to the brothers, the fathers, the uncles, the possible sons, and it's extremely, extremely selfish. So I don't know, man. All I know is I'm grateful because at least it seems like the wars have already shifted quite a bit. So we'll see how that goes with the rest of the Trump presidency. But this election itself was genuinely fucking saved by young men doing what was right. I didn't even know if Trump was going to get in, let alone winning the popular vote, let alone potentially taking the House, Senate, and the presidency. Damn, that is crazy. So I thank God that everything worked out well, and the too big to rig worked, oh my God, amazingly well. I'm so grateful for that. But I'm so proud of all the men who showed up and voted for what is right and what is best conditions for business, economy, health, safety, of them and their families and their women, stopping the wars, stopping the foreign aid, stopping open borders, stopping this America last type of thesis, mass deportations of illegals, hopefully banning the indoctrination of kids, letting kids research things after they're an adult and not getting them while they're young kind of thing, reforming education, everything that RFK Jr. is about to do with the health side of things. It's gonna be fire, bro. Hopefully reducing the bloat within government. I'm curious to see how the tariffs work as well, but those are all like things that really excite me. But man, the culture is swinging back, and it's really, really nice right now, because I don't know, man, it's just like people just got tired of how divisive and hateful this Marxist progressive ideology is. It's cancer. It's cancer to them. It's cancer to us. It's cancer to everyone. It's not good. I tried to hide everything in false virtue, but like if you just think about anything for like just a little bit longer than what you're used to, you can very clearly see that it's just absolute garbage. They try to like make it seem like it's like for minorities or for women. It's against minorities. It's against women. It's against gays. It's against literally everyone, especially white straight males. So I am so pleased to see everything coming back, and because it is a pendulum and it is swung in the right direction. Now I do hope it stops before it goes too far, and that is my one concern with if Trump and the Republicans get too much power. Will they abuse it? Will they take control in the wrong ways? We have yet to find out. I hope that doesn't happen. But it could be absolutely phenomenal having all that power in the trifecta. And obviously the popular vote is more like a flex and everything, because that is the first time in I believe 20 years that a Republican has won a popular vote, which is absolutely sick and very telling of how ridiculous the last 4 years have been and how the people they're just done. And there's a lot of people that need to figure it the fuck out still, but it's crazy to me that 69 million people voted for Harris, bro. Man, people are insane. But correction is required. So that is going to require doing some ugly things. Probably the most ugly thing, quote unquote, is mass deportations. And I am strongly in favor of those, because all of these illegals, man, they gotta go. Like, they're automatically criminals. People are like, oh, it's just how do we know if they're criminal? No, they broke the law, bro. 100% of them are criminals. So get them out of here, send them back to their countries. These are not typically families coming across the border, bro. Look at the videos. It's like military aged men. And all of those people, if they just wanted to turn on America, oh my God, it would be disastrous. So please get them the fuck out of here. It's the most obvious thing of all time. Build the fucking wall, secure the border. I say that as a Canadian. It is absurd that this ever became a racist thing. It is so important to your country. You don't have a country if you just have open borders. If anyone can come in and do whatever the fuck they want to do, and also get a free iPhone, free money, free housing, you are operating in lunacy. Like, that is a fantasy land. That is not how a country is supposed to be run. You are not a racist if you don't support illegal immigrants being in your country. It is total mental gymnastics. Please check back into reality if you think any of those things, because you are anti your country if you believe that. So that's probably the most like ruthless thing, but there's also a lot of things that need to be recorrected as well. I'm curious to see how much the culture is going to change, because it's like, are we fully done with political correctness? Will wokeism and progressivism die with a whimper, or is it just retreating into the shadows, or will it still stick around? I don't know. So far it seems to be there's like this we don't give a fuck kind of feeling in the air right now, which I am definitely here for. I think we need to hold on to that kind of thing. But I think people are tired. I think people are just bored with the identity politics. They're bored with the mental gymnastics. They're bored with the victimhood mentality, and they're just ready to return back to reality, get back to putting in the work, taking responsibility, being reasonable, being honest, being genuine, calling out nonsense, calling out policies that make no sense. They're done with the concept of wars. They're done with the weak leadership. They're done with holding back and censoring themselves, being censored by social media. They're done being told what they can and can't say, the words they can and can't use, the things they can and can't talk about. I think that's where people are at right now. I just wasn't sure if it was enough people, but apparently it was, and I'm very grateful for that. I saw Jimmy Kimmel say, even if you think this presidency is going to be good for you, it won't. And I think it's the complete opposite. I think even if you think this presidency will be bad for you, it won't. It'll be good for you. You're honestly under a spell. The only things that I think could sabotage this presidency right now are, number one, being leveraged by Israel. And number two, choosing the wrong cabinet, choosing too many establishment rhino types that are pro-war and honestly anti-America. At the end of the day, it actually really doesn't matter if you think this presidency will be good for you or not. The proof will be in the pudding. Either it will or it won't. Granted, at the same time, these people will not admit it if it is, because there's such a level of dishonesty and disingenuous nature from the parties right now that they can't even admit when the other side does something good. It's horrendous, but that's okay. They don't need to believe it. I really do wish everyone the best, and thank God the culture's coming back. The only asterisk I'll add to the culture coming back is be cautious of your hate and your resentment from the last however many years of censorship, of being controlled, of all these things. Don't lead with the hate and resentment in your heart around those things. Let that go. And it doesn't mean you need to forget, because I'm working on the hate in my heart around saying the truth right now. Like I think I've done a decent job today, but forgiving does not mean forget. Those are different variables, and sometimes people conflate them as the same or very, very similar. They're different. If I forgive someone, I take back the power. I stop letting them have a control over me. When I am too in hate, this is why I really thought it was interesting that, like, during BLM, they tried to tell us, you need to get mad. No, you don't. Because when you're super fucking mad, you're seeing red. When have you ever thought about a person who's seeing red and thinking clearly? It's the opposite. At that point, they almost put a filter over the reality of just total emotion that stops them from being able to think clearly and rationally about whatever the topic is at hand. So it's not really the answer to hold on to hate. The only person it burns is yourself. Unfortunately, I have not let go of all of my hate or anger around things, but I've come quite a long way. So we'll get to hopefully 100% someday, but I'm not there yet. We'll work on it. So don't forget about how they treated you, and maybe try and do better than they did. Use their absolute fuck ups as a means to definitely holding them accountable if any laws were broken or crimes against humanity occurred. Vaccines. Jesus. But you don't need to forget. I still remember all these things, even though I am forgiving them, because I don't want to be at the mercy of them, of whatever they did. I'm happy to take the power back and use that power for good. But I think it's crazy though, the false stories appearing real, because it's I was just fact checking the Project 2025 stuff, and man, people just very few are actually living in reality. Across the whole spectrum, there's just so many narratives playing out in people's minds. People are funny though, man. Almost everyone in the political spectrum is just living in some sort of false reality appearing real, just based on the narratives and stories they tell themselves. When the mind is too in control, as it is with almost everyone, these stories become the paint in which your reality is painted with. So it's you're still looking at this tree, but what does the mind say about the tree? If I told you the tree does not exist and you believe that idea enough, you could look at the tree with your eyes, but your mind would convince you it's not there. It's absurd. And then there's tribalism that comes into play with those stories as well, and then the identity piece as well. It's crazy, man. So do your best to come back to reality, to be reasonable, be objective. If not for the truth, just, I think it's just the right thing to do. Also, do your best to not hate these people, even though many of them hate you. And at the same time, it's from Jesus, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And I believe that's the case. I do think there is definitely some evil in the world, and even they don't actually know what they're doing, even though the act itself can be classified as evil, based on at least my subjective thinking around it. If you're on the left, don't be mad at people who are on the right who voted. If you're on the right, don't be mad at people who voted for Kamala, even though I don't think they're actually thinking clearly whatsoever. Everyone is really just doing the best they can. That's why I thought it was so bad that Biden called half the population garbage, all Trump supporters garbage. unless he was doing that as a genius IQ play to just get Kamala less votes because the establishment ousted him. So regardless of why it happened, it was just, I don't think it was a really good thing. I think they really want us to hate each other. And at the end of the day, the far left is never going to align with the rest of common sense. But it's really not worth your time, your energy, your peace to be hating the people on the other side. You know, they know not what they do. I don't mean that in a condescending way. I just mean if you really sit down with them, they don't know what they think. They are parroting it. They're told this is good thing, this is bad thing, and you know, orange man bad, Indian woman LARPing as black woman good. What can you do? I gotta say, the reaction itself from the election, prior to this election, I was really, really looking forward to all of the meltdowns that were like that iconic woman melting down when Trump was elected in 2016.
Donald J. Trump is now President of the United States. President Obama is the ex-president.
It's so funny. But this time I found it extremely disappointing just looking at like the meltdown, because these are still Americans, you know? They are our brothers and sisters, even if they may hate us. And I feel really bad for them because they are not living in reality at all. There's such a delusion at play. There's such a narrative running through their mind. They've been so manipulated by the establishment and the propaganda and leftists and feminists that came before them and all these people that hate them, but they thought have their best interests in heart. So all these people have just convinced them of things that don't even exist, to the point where they will freak out and think that, you know, Trump is going to harm their next 4 years and they're going to lose all their rights. Like, bro, what are these people? Like, there's just no evidence towards what they're talking about. The only thing that could make sense is when they're talking about maybe like abortion rights, but Kamala could not do fucking anything. Can we rewind the tape real quick and remind ourselves, who did Roe v. Wade happen under? Kamala. It was a judicial thing that gave it back to the states, which, by the way, is why do you want the president to have so much power? They're all obsessed with Trump is going to be a dictator, and dictator on day one, as if like every fucking president doesn't write executive orders as soon as they get into office, including Biden, who is just right there. So silliness. But like, why is it a problem giving the states more power instead of the one person who's a president? There's all these like things that don't make sense if you really just sit down and be honest about it. I just feel for these people who think the next 4 years are going to be an absolute disaster for them. The only thing you really have to worry about over the next 4 years is the fact that no one gives a shit about your bullshit anymore. We're all done with the woke nonsense, the race baiting, the calling us garbage, the calling us white supremacists or misogynists, or so, you know, out with that. That's the actual garbage. We're going to be taking that out. So we don't have to listen to you cry anymore. We're done with your victimhood shit. You're not going to have your necessarily safe spaces anymore. Hopefully those die, because safe spaces are for pussies anyways. So that's the only thing that's really going away. Besides that, you know, there's all this upside. Like, there's going to be a better economy. There's going to be, you as women will be more safe. Families will be more prioritized. The American people would be more prioritized. Hopefully sending money to Ukraine and Israel can stop, and any other sort of foreign entities as well. And then that money can actually be used for putting it towards the Americans first. It's obviously quite an emotional time for people right now. It is wild that trolls are doubling down on freaking these people the hell out. Like, I did the complete opposite. I was trying to, you know, comfort people. And then there's Matt Walsh, who's like, yes, let's double down. This is the real plan. Oh my God. It's Man, he's very funny. He's very, like, I don't agree with him on everything, but man, that guy's funny as shit. But yeah, I just took the opposite approach because I actually like do care about these people, even though they seem to hate me and people like me. It is what it is, though, you know? It is what it is. Anyway, this is massive for the world. I'm so excited for what the culture will become over the next 4 years. The hopefully amazing policies that are put forward. We'll track it. If it ends up being garbage, I'll take the L, but I don't think it's going to be. I'm very grateful that it's going to really halt the anti-communist agenda. It's going to end a lot of wars, reduce a lot of corruption ideally. And thank you to everyone, whether it was big or small, who played a role in this election, voting for the man and doing what was required when the right time came. You know, people who bitch about all of this stuff that's happened over the past 4 years, but then don't do anything, that's extremely cocked. You have the opportunity to cast your vote. That makes no sense if you decide to throw that away. You know, all the people who had him on his podcast, especially Joe Rogan, that was huge. Barron Trump orchestrating the podcast and the marketing around which shows to choose. Guy, you crushed it. Insane. Bro just put him in all the perfect places. It was phenomenal. And then anyone else who played a role in the campaign or publicly supported him, you guys did good. At the end of the day, like I keep harping on, this is not the end. This is merely the beginning. Like, just because Trump is in, just because maybe they get the trifecta all Republican, this is not the end. You still need to do what's required. You still need to focus on self-improvement, on becoming the best version of yourself, becoming the most masculine you can be if you're a man, becoming the most feminine you can be if you're a woman. You know, it's letting go of the stuff that keeps you stuck and stops you from being the person you could become and reaching the potential you could reach. It's being as healthy as possible, being as fit as possible, getting your mind right, seeing reality more clearly, working on yourself, working on your relationships, being the type of man who can protect, provide, and create security for those around you, your immediate family, etc. Doing good work, giving back, progressing upon a worthwhile mission. It's all of these things. It's not to say that if Harris was elected, it would have been impossible or you couldn't do things still. It just would have been unnecessary burden. It would have been, you would have been burdened by what would be. The leverage would just be ridiculously lower. The room for improvement would be limited because there's less to work with, and everything just becomes infinitely harder. Unnecessary struggle and challenge. Whereas that will not be the case with Trump. Thank God. All the government can do is just help lay better soil. It's still up to you to plant those seeds, to water it, and fertilize it. And then someday, at the end of this presidency, you can look back and appreciate all of the growth that has occurred. And then hopefully we get Vivek and Andy Frisella in 2028. That would be fucking tremendous. Also, I would love to be clear on this. This is not going to become a political channel. It'll be a combination of, you know, talking about current events, talking about culture, talking about my views on certain things. And this is relevant right now, and I'm wanting to talk about it. I'm not going to just talk about things for the sake of, but primarily on this channel, it's more about self-improvement. It's more about, you know, maximizing your potential. That's where I can bring the most value. So this is kind of like more of a side dish. If you're interested in that kind of thing, here and there, or if you're interested in the other stuff as well, subscribe because we got a lot more coming. A lot more. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Appreciate you guys. And as always, I'll catch you in the next one.